63% of Americans right now. In 2026, are living paycheck to paycheck. Total household debt just hit a record $18.8 trillion. The average person is carrying $6,580 in credit card debt alone. And inflation just spiked to 3.3% in March, the highest we've seen since May 2024. And yet, there is a small group of people who are completely unfazed by all of this. They're not making six figures. They're not day trading meme stocks. They didn't inherit anything. They just follow a different set of rules. 13 of them, actually. These are what I call the Minimalist Money Laws. And if you genuinely follow them, not just nod along, but actually implement them, financial instability becomes almost impossible. I know that sounds like a big claim. So let me prove it. Before we get into it, I just want to say, nothing in this video is sponsored. And I'm not selling a course. If this helps you, just subscribe. That is it. Let's go. Law number 1. Stop budgeting the traditional way. Pay yourself first and let the rest sort itself out. Now I know. Every financial guru on this platform tells you to budget. Track every dollar. Use the spreadsheet. Color code your expenses. And look, for some people that works. But for most, budgets fail. They fail because they require constant maintenance, constant willpower. And they put spending front and center instead of saving. Here is what actually works, and what every financially stable minimalist I've ever studied does. They flip the equation. Instead of income minus expenses equals savings, they run income minus savings equals what you're allowed to spend. This is the pay yourself first method, and it is stupidly simple. The moment your paycheck hits your account, a predetermined amount, and I'll tell you how much in a second, automatically moves into a savings account, an investment account, or both. What is left? That is your spending money. All of it. You don't need to track categories or obsess over whether you spent $4.5 too much on coffee this week. Now the number. The old school rule is the 50 divided by 30 divided by 20. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings. Now the number. The old school rule is the 50 divided by 30 divided by 20. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings. And honestly, in 2026, with inflation where it is and tariffs pushing consumer goods prices even higher, 50% on needs is optimistic for a lot of people. I know that. So here is what I'd say. Start with whatever percentage you can automate into savings, even if it is 10%, even if it is 5%. The point is that it happens automatically before you even see the money. Because a budget you have to manually follow every single day is a budget that eventually breaks. An automated transfer? That runs whether you're disciplined or not. That is the whole point. Law number 2. Never keep all your money in one account. This sounds basic. It is basic. And yet the majority of people still operate with one checking account where everything flows in and everything flows out. And they genuinely wonder why they can't save. Here is the minimalist structure that works. You need 3 accounts. That is it, not 12. 3. Number 1. A checking account for bills and fixed expenses. Rent, mortgage, utilities, insurance, subscriptions. Everything predictable goes here. Number 2. A separate checking or debit account for spending. This is your life money. Food, going out, gas, whatever. When it is empty, you stop. Simple. Number 3. A high-yield savings account for your emergency fund, and short-term savings goals. And right now, in April 2026, the best high-yield savings accounts are paying up to 4 to 5% AP. Accounts like SoFi at 4%, Axos One at 4.21%, some even hitting 5%. You are leaving free money on the table if your savings are sitting in a traditional bank at 0.39%, which, by the way, this three-account system creates what behavioral economists call mental accounting. When your spending money is physically separated from your bill money and your savings, you stop accidentally eating into funds that were meant for something else. It is a guardrail, not a cage, and it takes about 30 minutes to set up. Law number 3. Never make a purchase over $50 without waiting 48 hours. This is the single most powerful anti-impulse spending tool that exists. And it costs nothing. It requires no app, no spreadsheet, no accountability partner, just patience. Your dopamine system fires. It is the anticipation of reward. It is the same neurological pathway that lights up with gambling, with social media notifications, with junk food. Your brain is literally drugging you into swiping your card. And retailers know this. That is why everything is limited time and only 3 left in stock, and deal ends tonight. They are engineering urgency to override your rational mind. The 48-hour rule breaks the cycle. You see something you want, write it down, put it on a list. Then, walk away for 2 days. If you still want it after 48 hours, and you can afford it without dipping into savings, buy it guilt-free. But here is what happens in practice. Studies consistently show that somewhere around 70 to 80% of those impulse urges disappear within 48 hours. That means you eliminate the vast majority of wasteful spending just by introducing a tiny delay. And this is especially critical right now because tariffs are pushing up prices on imported consumer goods, electronics, clothing, home goods. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the average American household will pay roughly $2,500 in tariff-related costs this year. That is $769 more than last year. So every unnecessary purchase you avoid, it stretches further than it used to. Law number 4. Audit every single subscription you have. Right now, not later. Now. The average American spends $219 per month on subscriptions. That is according to C2R Research's latest data. $219. That is $2,628 a year being siphoned out of your account. Often for things you barely use. But here is the part that really gets me. When surveyed, most people estimated they spent about $86 a month on subscriptions. The actual number was 2.5 times higher. There is a $133 per month gap between what people think they re-spending and what they re-actually spending. That is not a rounding error. That is $1,600 a year vanishing into thin air. And this is why 55% of Americans say they plan to cut subscriptions in 2026. According to a NerdWallet survey from just last week, people are waking up. So here is what you do. Pull up your bank statement right now. Literally pause this video and do it. And search for every recurring charge, every streaming service, every app, every gym membership, every free trial you forgot to cancel. Write them all down. Then ask yourself one question for each. Have I used this in the last 30 days? If the answer is no, cancel it. Today, not tomorrow. Today, because tomorrow never comes with subscriptions. That is exactly what they're counting on. The minimalist approach to subscriptions is ruthless simplicity. Keep 2, maybe 3 that you genuinely use every week. Everything else is noise. And I promise you, when you see how much money reappears in your account next month, you'll wonder how you ever let it get that bad. Law number 5. Build an emergency fund before you do anything else. Before investing, before paying extra on debt, before everything. I can stress this enough. According to Bankrate, 2026 Emergency Savings Report, nearly a quarter of Americans, 24%, have zero emergency savings. Not a little, zero. And Us News found that 43% of Americans could cover a $1,000 emergency expense without going into debt. Let that sink in. A $1,000 car repair, a surprise medical bill, a broken furnace. These aren't hypotheticals. These are things that happen to everyone eventually. And when they happen without an emergency fund, you end up on a credit card charging 20% interest. And now, a $1,000 problem becomes a $1,500 problem. And the debt cycle begins. The minimalist approach. You need 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses set aside in a high-yield savings account. Not invested in the stock market, not locked in a CD, not in crypto. Liquid, accessible, boring. That is the point. Now, if 3 to 6 months sounds impossible right now, start with $1,000. That is your first milestone. Just $1,000 sitting there, untouchable, unless a genuine emergency hits. And I mean a genuine emergency. Not a sale at Best Buy, not a weekend trip, not, I really need new shoes. An emergency is something that threatens your ability to earn income, stay housed, stay healthy, or get to work. That is it. Once you hit $1,000, keep going. Automate a set amount weekly or monthly into that high-yield savings account. At 4% AP, your money is at least keeping pace with some of the inflation damage. And you're building a financial shock absorber that makes every other law in this video 10 times more effective. Law number 6. When your income goes up, your lifestyle stays the same. This is the law that separates people who earn a lot from people who actually build wealth. And they're not always the same people. In fact, they're usually not. Lifestyle creep, also called lifestyle inflation, is what happens when you get a raise, a bonus, a new job, or a side hustle starts paying off, and your spending quietly rises to match. New apartment, nicer car, more frequent dining out, better clothes. None of it feels extravagant in the moment. It all feels earned, and that is exactly what makes it so dangerous. According to Empower's personal dashboard data, American household wealth jumped 4.4% in the first half of 2025. People were earning more, but the personal savings rate, it was 4% in February 2026. That is less than half the historical average of 8.39%. Incomes went up and savings went down. That is lifestyle creep in action at a national scale. The minimalist money law is this: every time your income increases, your lifestyle stays frozen. The difference, every single dollar of that raise goes directly into savings or investments. You were already living on your old salary. You already proved you could survive on that amount. So keep surviving on it. And let the gap between your income and your spending become your wealth building engine. I'm not saying never upgrade your life. I'm saying delay it. Give yourself a rule for every raise. Wait at least 6 months before adjusting any spending. In those 6 months, route that money into your emergency fund, into index funds, into paying down high-interest debt. Then, after 6 months, if you still want that upgrade, take 25% of the raise for lifestyle and keep the other 75% working for you. That ratio will change your financial trajectory faster than almost anything else you can do. Law number 7. Know your enough number. This one's philosophical, but it is arguably the most important law on this list. Because the reason most people never feel financially stable, even when they objectively are, is that they've never defined what enough looks like. Without a target, more is always the answer. More income, more stuff, more investment returns. And when more is always the answer, you're on a treadmill that never stops. You earn $60K and think stability starts at $80K. You hit $80K and think it is actually $120K. The goalpost moves forever because you never planted it in the ground. Here is the minimalist fix. Sit down and calculate. Actually, calculate the exact monthly number you need to cover your essentials, fund your savings goals, and afford a modest amount of enjoyment. That number is your enough. And once you hit it, everything above it gets invested or saved, not spent. I'll tell you something that sounds counterintuitive. The people I've seen who are the most financially stable aren't the ones earning the most. They're the ones who defined their enough early and protected it fiercely. Because when you know what enough is, financial decisions become incredibly simple. Every choice runs through one filter. Does this serve my enough number, or does it threaten it? Law number 8. Treat consumer debt like it is on fire, because it is. We have culturally normalized debt in a way that is genuinely insane when you step back and look at it. Total US household debt is $18.8 trillion. Credit card debt alone is $1.28 trillion. The average balance among people carrying debt is nearly $7,900. And 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been carrying it for over a year, up from 53% just 2 years ago. This is not a stable system. This is a system where people are slowly drowning and calling it swimming. The minimalist approach to debt is simple and aggressive. Consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, buy now, pay later is an emergency, not a "I'll get to it eventually" situation, an emergency. Because every dollar of credit card debt at the current average APR of over 20% is a dollar that is actively working against you 24/7, compounding in the wrong direction. There are 2 methods that work. The avalanche method: pay minimums on everything. Throw every extra dollar at the highest interest debt first. This saves you the most money, mathematically. Or the snowball method: pay off the smallest balance first for the psychological win. Then roll that payment into the next one. Pick whichever keeps you motivated. But pick one and start this week. And going forward, the minimalist rule is, if you can't pay for it in full this month, you can't afford it. Period. The only exceptions are a mortgage and arguably strategically managed student loans or a reasonable car payment. Everything else gets paid in cash or it doesn't get purchased. This is not deprivation. This is self-respect. Law number 9. Invest consistently in boring things and never stop. I know this is the least exciting law on the list, but it is the one that actually makes people rich. Not crypto, not options, not whatever stock some guy on social media is screaming about. Boring, consistent, automated index fund investing. The S&P 500 has delivered an average annual return of about 10.5% since 1957. Over the last decade, from 2016 through 2025, it has returned roughly 14.8% annually, according to Fidelity. And you don't need to pick stocks, time the market, or understand a single candlestick chart to capture those returns. You just buy a broad market index fund, something like VU, VTI, or SPY, and you keep buying it every single paycheck, regardless of what the market is doing. This is called dollar cost averaging, and it is the most proven, least stressful way to build wealth over time. When the market drops, your fixed contribution buys more shares. When it rises, your existing shares grow. Over decades, this smooths out every crash, every correction, every scary headline, and historically delivers the kinds of returns that transform modest, consistent contributions into genuine wealth. The minimalist investor doesn't check their portfolio daily. They don't panic sell. They don't chase trends. They automate their contributions and then go live their life. It is the financial equivalent of planting a tree and letting rain do the work. Law number 10, reduce what you own, and you automatically reduce what you spend. This is the law where minimalism as a lifestyle and minimalism as a financial strategy completely merge, because everything you own has a cost of ownership beyond the purchase price. That bigger apartment, higher rent, higher utilities, more furniture to fill it. That second car, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration. That closet full of clothes, dry cleaning, storage, the mental energy of deciding what to wear, and the constant temptation to refresh your wardrobe. The No Buy 2026 movement is exploding right now. And it is exploding for exactly this reason. People are realizing that the stuff they accumulated isn't making them happier, but it is making them broker. An Intuit study found that 49% of Americans plan to commit to mindful spending in 2026 to combat the rising cost of living. The minimalist approach is to regularly ask one question about every physical item you own. Does this add value to my daily life? If it doesn't, sell it, donate it, or recycle it. And before buying anything new, ask, am I buying this because I need it, or because I saw an ad, or because someone else has it? Honest answers to those questions will save you thousands every year, without feeling like you're sacrificing anything, because you're not. You're subtracting the things that never mattered in the first place. Law number 11. Your income is your most valuable financial asset. People spend enormous energy optimizing their spending, but almost no energy optimizing and protecting their earning power. And that is backwards, because your ability to earn income is the engine that powers everything else. Every investment, every savings goal, every emergency fund, every financial plan you have. Protecting your income means 3 things. First, continuously invest in your skills. The job market is shifting rapidly. AI is restructuring entire industries. Remote work is changing who competes for what roles. And the skills that were valuable 5 years ago aren't necessarily the ones that'll be valuable 5 years from now. Dedicate time and a small budget to learning things that make you more valuable, more adaptable, and harder to replace. Second, diversify your income streams. This doesn't mean you need to run 5 side hustles. It means that relying on a single source of income is a single point of failure. Even something as simple as a small freelance gig, a part-time consulting engagement, or investment dividends creates a second layer of stability that insulates you when life gets unpredictable. Third, and this is the one people hate hearing, get proper insurance, health insurance, renters or homeowners insurance, disability insurance, if your employer offers it. One major medical event without insurance can erase a decade of financial progress in a single bill. It is the least exciting money you'll ever spend, and it is the most important. Law number 12. Replace comparison with calculation. Social media has created a comparison economy that is devastating people's finances. Except you're comparing your full financial picture. Debts, obligations, stress to someone else's highlight reel. and then you spend money. You don't have to close a gap that doesn't actually exist. Here is what I want you to do instead. Anytime you feel the pull to buy something because you saw someone else with it, open your calculator app. Literally open it and compute. If I invested this money instead at a 10% annual return, what would it be worth in 10 years? In 20? A $200 impulse purchase. Invested instead at 10% annually? That is $519 in 10 years. That is $1,345 in 20. A $500 purchase. $1,297 in 10 years. $3,364 in 20. Every time you replace a comparison-driven purchase with a calculation, you are literally choosing your future self over someone else's Instagram post. And your future self will thank you in ways that no luxury item ever could. The financially stable people I've studied don't avoid social media entirely. That is unrealistic. But they've trained themselves to respond to envy with math instead of a credit card. And over time, that reflex becomes automatic. Law number 13. If your financial life is complicated, it is broken. This is the master law, the one that ties everything else together. If you can't explain your financial system to a 12-year-old in under 5 minutes, it is too complicated. And complicated financial systems don't fail because the person is stupid. They fail because complexity creates friction, and friction creates avoidance, and avoidance creates chaos. They fail because complexity creates friction, and friction creates avoidance, and avoidance creates chaos. The minimalist financial system looks like this. You have a clear, automated savings mechanism. You have 3 accounts, not 10. You have 1 or 2 investment accounts with broad index funds, not a portfolio of 47 individual stocks you can keep track of. You have an emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. You know your enough number, and you have a simple debt payoff plan. If you carry any balances, that is it. The whole thing, and it runs on autopilot 90% of the time. You check in once a month, make sure everything's flowing where it should, adjust if your income changes, and get on with your life. Because here is the truth nobody in finance wants to admit. The best financial plan isn't the most optimized one. It is the one you'll actually follow. And simplicity is what makes things followable. Look, I started this video by telling you that 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck in a country that produces more wealth than any other on earth. And the reason isn't that people don't earn enough, though for some, that is genuinely true, and I don't want to minimize that. But for the majority, it is that the system is designed to capture every dollar you earn before you can do anything meaningful with it. Subscriptions, lifestyle creep, consumer debt, impulse purchases, comparison spending. It is a machine built to keep you running in place. These 13 laws are your way off the treadmill. None of them require you to earn more money. None of them require financial genius. They just require you to be intentional, to choose simplicity when the world is screaming at you to complicate things. If even 3 of these laws clicked for you today, put them into practice this week, not next month, this week. And if this was valuable, subscribe, because I'll be breaking down more of these frameworks that actually move the needle. I'll see you in the next one.